Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a basic Warlock PvP guide. The first thing I'm going to be going over is spec, which you'll see on screen now. For the most part, it's quite a simple generic spec, with a few points that are personal choice in the demonology tree. Firstly, some people choose to run without Fel Synergy and choose to put the 2 points into Demonic Embrace instead. Personally, I don't like this, but it is entirely optional. A lot of people also choose not to run with Demonic Rebirth, but I think this is an extremely useful talent, as with Soulburn summoning instant pets as well, it makes it an unviable strategy to kill your pets. In terms of glyphs, there aren't really many choices to run with, so the simple Unstable Affliction, Corruption and Horn are your generic prime glyphs. For major glyphs, Soul Swap is mandatory, as without it, Soul Swap is next to useless. Shadow Flame glyph is also useful if you're trying to cut a melee cleave, and the Howl of Terror cooldown reduction is incredibly useful for both offensive and defensive play. Next, I'm going to be talking about gear. For Warlocks, PvE gear isn't particularly good, and even though you'll deal more damage by wearing it, you'll also take more, and particularly against melee cleaves you're likely to be focused. Because of this, I'd recommend complete PvP gear, apart from Cunning of the Cruel. Cunning of the Cruel is currently the best slot item for a Warlock, regardless of the version, be it Raid Finder, Normal or Heroic. If you can get your hands on one of these, use it. In terms of gemming, Intellect is the best stat, but if you prefer getting the socket bonuses, Resilience, Haste or Stamina is probably best for the colour appropriate slot. Your hit rating should always be as close to 4% as possible. Never go under 4%, because that is when your spells can actually miss and it could cost you the game. Going over 4% is okay, but try to keep it as close as possible. I cannot stress this enough, do not go under 4% here. In terms of reforging and enchanting, Haste is the best stat. Haste reduces your cast time and increases how quickly your dots tick, making this stat much better than, say, Mastery. For enchants, if Haste is not available, Intellect is better, except on boots where I like to use Earth and Vitality. In terms of macros, there are some very useful ones, and I'll put them all in the description below. Firstly, this Fel Flame macro will Fel Flame your mouseover and Devour Magic your mouseover. This is particularly useful if you want to kill a totem, keep somebody in combat, or dispel an important buff such as Innovate or Avenging Wrath. Secondly, this Curse of Tongues macro just uses Curse of Tongues on your focus target. This Demon Soul macro will use Lifeblood if you're an alchemist, use any unused trinkets you may have, and then use Demon Soul, making your dots hit as hard as possible. This macro will just death coil your focus, which is useful for extra CC on a healer if you have no DRs left but are quite close to a kill. This macro will fear Arena Enemy 1, as it appears on your arena frames if it exists, and if not, it will fear my target if I'm dueling or in a BG or such. Similarly, these macros will fear Arena 2 and Arena 3. This macro will use Soul Swap on your focus target, either the exhaling of the dots or the intake of the dots. This macro is a one button macro that will switch between Fel Armor and Demon Armor. This macro will use your Fel Hunter's spell lock on your focus target. And finally, this macro will banish your mouseover target if it exists, and if not, will banish your target. This is particularly useful against Warlocks, as if their pet is banished they lose Soul Link, meaning they take 20% more damage and cannot spell lock. I'm now going to be going over a few general tips that I see some Warlocks not doing in Arena, and it could help them quite a lot. Firstly, if Unstable Affliction is dispelled, the Dispeller takes around 35k damage and a 5-second silence. If you put an Unstable Affliction onto the DPS you fear, the healer will either not try to dispel, meaning it's a full fear, or risks dispelling Unstable Affliction and putting them in a really bad situation. If possible, cover your fears with UA, the damage it ticks alone won't break the fear. This is also useful when you fear the healer against Shadow Priest, as they can mass dispel the fear otherwise. Secondly, Howl of Terror can fear up to 4 targets, but you can still fear another one. Fear won't break the Howl from Howl of Terror, so if you use Howl to fear 2 people, you can also cast a fear on the 3rd. Swapping to Demon Armor when you're being focused is extremely useful and makes your healer's life so much easier as you take increased healing. Try to swap out of it if they stop attacking you, but it isn't the end of the world if you don't, whereas the healing can save you if your healer is CC'd out of the game. That has either HOTS or Earth Shield or a similar effect. Your portal placement on maps such as Ring of Valor, Dalaran Sewers and Blade's Edge Arena can also be a deciding factor in the game. On Ring of Valor, if you put it on one of the pillars and it goes up, you can portal up and melee won't be able to hit you unless they have a gap closer, such as Shadow Step. Warrior's Charge will not work, but Heroic Leap can. Similarly, on Dalaran and Blade's Edge Arena, you can put your portal on the upper level and jump down if you get into trouble, and portal back up if they follow you. This can be game saving, as it can stop you from taking any more damage while your healer is in CC, even if they don't follow you. As with every caster, you want to try and fake cast their interrupts. This means starting your cast and then cancelling it so that they use their interrupt and you can then freely cast. This allows you to freely crowd control your opponents and cast dots onto their team. A good add-on for checking to see if you've actually faked their interrupts is Duked, link in the description. In arenas and rated battlegrounds, if you summon a new pet, your spell lock cooldown is refreshed. This means if you soul burn and summon a new pet instantly, you'll have your spell lock cooldown back and you can sometimes catch healers or DPS out and get another interrupt on them. Finally in this guide, I'm going to be going over the overview of Warlocks and your general role in arena. Your general role in every arena game is to make their healer's life hell. Particularly in comps like RLS, you should try to have as much dot as possible so that no matter who your rogue swaps to, they'll have already started rotting away to your dots. If you're able to get all your opponents dotted with the help of soul swap glyphed, and your partner is putting out a lot of damage, their healer will struggle to keep up, and eventually your CC on him will cause a kill. Your fears as a warlock should also both create pressure and stop theirs. Ideally, you want to use your fears before they get pressure with their cooldowns. For instance, if a mage uses Icy Veins, keep up Curse for Tongues and try to fear them. This will be a wasted cooldown for them and mean your healer isn't too far behind with their healing. The only real downside to Warlocks are you are easily trained by a melee cleave and take a lot of damage from them, and you don't put out incredible amounts of burst. You do, however, put out a lot of damage by multi-dotting, and because of this, Warlocks are very strong in the current state of the game. Thank you for watching my basic Warlock guide. If you have any questions or feedback, leave it in the comments below, and don't forget to like, favourite and subscribe.